Welcome back to our channel. Today we are on the hunt for a property deal, so come along with us as we check out a 2-bed terraced property which we think has the potential to become a 4-bed.
As we film this, it is August 2023 and this property is on the market for £145,000. As we're making our way to the property, Lia and I are just refreshing our memory slightly on the layout, and we're already discussing prices, maybe what we can do with it, so that when we get into the property, we can make the best use of time.
And if you're new here, I'm Lia.
And I'm AK.
And this is our channel where we talk about property, business, and life as a couple. So one of the first things we look for when we arrive at a property is the roof. And right now, I'm looking for any gaps, cracks, loose or missing tiles, and I'm paying close attention to the area around the chimney.
As Lia said, that's one of the first things we do when we actually start to look at a property. We start with the exterior. A weak roof with missing or damaged tiles could be expensive to fix, so it's always a good idea to clock these things early. Make sure that you take photos so that you can reference them at a later date when considering refurbishment costs.
So now that we've had a look at the outside of the property, AK has taken some photos, we're heading inside, and straight away we've already clocked this very overgrown garden, which definitely requires some attention. You can tell that the property has been left for a while, unkept, and as predicted, we did think this would be a probate property based on the photos from the advert, and the agent that we're just meeting now confirmed that exactly as we started speaking to her, telling us the deal that this is indeed a probate property. If you're not sure what a probate property is, then you can click on the link in our cards where we explain all about probate property and why these sales take so long to go through.
The first thing I usually do when I go into a property is get the floor plan up, because I want to just orientate myself within the property. So I'm actually discussing here with Lia what we could potentially do with this room. What I'm actually saying to her here is that this potentially could be either a living room or a front bedroom. So again, we're just trying to weigh up what the best strategy for this particular property would be. I'm knocking on the wall here just to see if that is a solid wall, and it is, of course, it's a chimney. So we're discussing whether or not we could potentially remove that to make more space within that room. We also check the windows to ensure the quality of the window. Again, whether it be a buy-to-let or an HMO, we need to understand whether we need to change the windows or not, because that will become an additional cost. In this case, the windows would not be compliant with HMO regulations, but the condition is fine for a buy-to-let.
And just pausing this video here, where you can see the radiator in the front room. This shows us that there is electric heaters in the property. It's quite an old property. They've not had any gas coming to it, which is something we would definitely have to change if we were going down the HMO route, and probably even the buy-to-let route as well. We wouldn't want to leave this as an electric only property. So now we're walking from the first reception room past the front door into what is the second reception room in this property. Slightly smaller than the first reception room. I just peeked my head there into the cupboard, which has got a little bit of storage space and the utility meters. And now we're in this room. This is definitely not big enough for a bedroom. Also, you'll notice that you have to walk through this room to get into the kitchen. So to me, this feels like it could be a kitchen diner. Perhaps it could be a little bit more open plan. We've got a galley kitchen here that we just walked into. And if you see behind us, it is actually big enough to be extended, because there's a bathroom down there, which is quite big. It looks like an accessible wet room, which could be part of the kitchen. Like all of this could be kitchen all the way through to here.
Yeah, exactly.
And it'll be a very big galley kitchen if you get rid of all of this.
So within this particular area in the UK, it's actually very common to have the main bathroom of the property downstairs past the kitchen. Back in the 60s and the 70s, the bathrooms actually used to be outside. And when they decided then to move them inside, they decided to move them into what was just behind the kitchen then. And as we've progressed through the years, we've actually then moved the bathrooms upstairs in these types of properties.
Now we're outside, and you can't actually see from the video, but if I insert a photo from the listing here, you'll notice that the garden is completely overgrown. So that needs a lot of work done to it. This is another thing you want to factor in when you're working out your refurb costs. And AK and I are just discussing there about how to get into the property. Is there an opportunity there to walk through the side gate down the shared alley and use this entrance here straight into a communal kitchen diner?
You could actually create a door there to get into that bedroom.
Oh,
so that you can close it off from the other end.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was wondering how that was going to work as a bedroom, but it would if you put a door in there. Just to reiterate, what we're trying to do at the moment is just assess how many options we have available to us when it comes to the refurbishment of this property.
So we're always looking for multiple strategies, whether it's going to be buy-to-let, whether it be a straight up flip, whether it be an HMO strategy. If you are interested in HMOs, we've got some other videos on our channels of before and after videos of the HMO refurbs we have done, and also the numbers behind them. Now heading up the stairs into what is the biggest bedroom of the property, pink room here.
So again, I'm just checking the floor plan just to make sure I've got the right room. And what I'm doing now is looking at the wardrobe to see whether or not an ensuite could fit. What we would do usually is knock through that wall, which would just allow us a little bit more flexibility. Again, just assessing whether this be an HMO or a buy-to-let, we're keeping our options open.
Moving on from the pink room, we're now walking down the corridor, and I think I nearly tripped over these stairs actually. I have to be careful of that. So now we're going into the green room, and can I just say I love how in the 60s everyone did a green room, a pink room, a blue room. It just reminds me of my own grandma's home. This feels a bit small for me. This feels like a single. It feels a little bit small. Yeah. Obviously you have got to remember that once all these fitted wardrobes are out there, you have got all of that behind there.
Yeah, true.
Here we have the water tank, which is in a slightly annoying location because that could be part of the bedroom really, and this could lead into a very large ensuite. I think we are weighing up the options here about that too. It's a very, very nice sized upstairs bathroom.
Yeah, and as Leah said, we're actually discussing the potential of whether or not it will fit a similar model to one of our previous projects that we have done. We're going to link that project up in the cards if you're interested in seeing how we converted that 3-bed property to a 4-bed property. Mm-hmm. In the last one we had this as the kind of ensuite of the bedroom.
Yeah, that's what I love. Oh, we've got competition. Someone else has arrived. Get out of here. This is property couple. I love how those are not actually tiles. Can you see how it's like wallpaper but it looks like tiles?
It's like a vinyl.
It's so funny.
Like a vinyl.
Wow, I wonder if that was ever...
Proper 80s, isn't it?
It's so 80s. We actually just took the moment to get a thumbnail photo for the video.
So just a little bit behind the scenes there. Just takes us a couple of seconds, but we usually do that for every video just to make sure that we can get the thumbnail. The little toilet sign there, just in case you don't know, that is the toilet.
Yeah, we'll definitely be keeping that sign if we get the property, won't we?
Love it.
Now heading down the corridor and out of the property because there is another viewing that has arrived, so we want them to have their moment. We didn't actually go up to the attic, but that is where the attic is placed. If you are concerned about a roof, then it's not a bad idea to ask the agent if you can go in the loft. You can usually then get a better view, see if there's any tiles missing and things like that. We then took a flyer off the agents for all the information and we went outside to have a little meeting. Bye!
See ya. Bye-bye. Bye. It's doable. I feel like the layout's a bit different to what we're used to, but I think it can work.
Not that far off, is it?
And I like the location. This boiler comes out here, right?
Yeah.
And does this become sort of a room here? And can we squeeze an ensuite in here like we did in the last one, for example?
So this room eats into a little bit of this as an ensuite, and you get that nice big size. And this room has a nice big walk-in wardrobe and ensuite, and this becomes like the more expensive room of the property, which always goes first. Do you think the cheaper rooms would go first? The more expensive ones, they go first.
It just feels tight, but don't know.
It's possible. I think it's definitely possible.
I think we need to put it into the little plan, into the little design thing and see if it actually works.
If we've got this access down the side here, that all the tenants can enter the property down this access alleyway and in through this sort of like kitchen communal area, this becomes a communal galley kitchen, eating area, laundry, then this works. Mm-hmm. If this is big enough. Okay?
Cool.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed this viewing. It's been really nice going around and first time having a help with the camera. Yeah. Thanks very much, Christy.
There seems to be properties back on the market. I feel like we haven't really done many viewings in the last, 12 months or...
Yeah. Don't know if this one tops that disgusting auction property we saw the other day.
Oh, that's horrendous.
That was just
shocking. And now Leah and I are going to head back to the studio. We're going to analyse the numbers and we're going to share those with you right now.
It's the next day and we're back in the studio to run you through the numbers and the analysis on this deal.
Let's take a look at this from two perspectives. The first perspective is your traditional buy-to-let strategy. The advertised purchase price of this property is £145,000. Now, when we start to look at the average sold prices within the area using property data as an example, it's telling us that the average sold price within the area for a 2-bed property similar to this one is £160,000. So I'm going to just put a couple of caveats in here. So there's going to be some assumptions. We are going to assume that we are purchasing this for £145,000. We are going to assume that once this property is renovated, it is worth £160,000. We are going to assume that the average monthly rental within this area for this type of property is £800 a month. That's also based on property data. So we're just going to display how this works. What we're not saying is these numbers are exactly correct to the absolute millimeter. Okay, so I just want to make that clear. To refurbish this property back into a good livable standard that somebody would be proud to live there, we're going to estimate the works will cost around about £40,000 as well. So we're just going to put that in there. So let's start with taking away the monthly management fee. That's always the first thing you do because it's usually a percentage of the monthly rental. So in this case, the average monthly rental is £800. So we're going to remove 10% of that. And the reason I use 10% is because, again, that's just an average based on this type of property for a management fee within this particular area. So 10% of £800, £80 a month, leaves us with £720. And then we're going to deduct the monthly mortgage. Now, in this case, I've put an interest rate of 6%. Now, at the time we're videoing this, that's about right for a buy-to-let mortgage, and 6% will equate to £543.75. Once we remove that as a cost, we are left with £176.25 profit every single month. So you might be looking at that thinking, well, hang on a minute, the deposit is £36,250 and I need to spend £40,000 on top of that to do all the works to this property, and it's only going to leave me £176 a month. You might be thinking, what is the point? And you're probably quite right. So, we're looking at this as if we were to purchase this for £145,000 and just rent it out as a traditional buy-to-let, it's not really going to float our boat.
Of course, one of the biggest expenses there is the mortgage, and that's because right now the interest rates are higher than what we've seen over the last sort of 5-10 years. We've had these historically low interest rates, so people fixing their mortgages in the 1s and 2s and the 3s, it's just not happening right now. So that's why this deal just doesn't stack up for us on the current mortgage rates.
So let's do this live. So I'm going to change this little 6% interest rate in my magic spreadsheet to what we were seeing 2 years ago, which was around about 3.5%. And all of a sudden you can see there that the profit every single month goes up to £400 a month, which actually is a bit more significant, because you can see how that can scale then in terms of how many properties you then need to start building a bit more of a passive income.
I think what's interesting as well is that we used to stress test our mortgages at 6% anyway, and as long as it was positively cash flowing, which it was, 170 something pounds per month, it's still £170 per month more than you were getting before. It's just that in this case, it's quite a lot of money to put into a deal.
Obviously, these numbers would be based on if you actually purchase this property for £145,000. These numbers will more than likely change if you buy that at a cheaper price, of course. We're just trying to sort of give you an overall top line flavour for the structure of this. Now, where it becomes again quite interesting is when you start to look at other strategies as well. So these numbers change dramatically when you start to look at, for example, small HMOs as a strategy. So to give you an example of that, it's probably a little bit too small for a small HMO. However, just to give you guys an example, when we go into these types of properties, we're thinking, what strategy could this potentially suit? And the interesting thing here is that we would purchase this at the same price, £145,000. This property would probably be worth slightly more on the market afterwards, probably another £20,000 or £30,000 just from our local knowledge and what we understand. However, where it becomes really interesting is that the rental for this, if you created a 4-bed small HMO, would be around about £2,200 a month. Now, when you then minus the management fee, which would be slightly more expensive than a buy-to-let in our opinion, around about sort of 12 to 15% for an HMO. I'm going to keep it in at 12% now just for the purpose of this example, but 12% of that monthly rental fee would be £264 a month. So we would minus that off the rent. We would then minus the mortgage. Now in this example it's 6%, so that would be £543.75. So then you can clearly see that you'd be left with £1,392.25. So you can quickly see that you're left with a lot more rent. However, what I would say is that the cost to renovate the property would be significantly more. I would probably put these in at around £80,000. You've got to remember as well with HMOs that you're going to be paying for all the white goods, all the furniture and all this stuff. So there's going to be more costs. I've said this a few times, this is very high level, but it's just to give you guys an understanding of the difference in terms of it can work for some people because they understand these types of strategies and you might want to be looking at it from that perspective, and it can completely not work for other strategies and other people that might only consider, say, a buy-to-let as an example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly what you said in terms of the refurb costs being much higher. You've got to buy 4 bathrooms, you've got to buy, you know what I mean? If you're going to do en-suites in every room, everything's going to be higher. Furnishing the whole property is going to cost you money. Doing professional staging and dressing and getting it marketed and rented, it's just a whole step up from buy-to-let, but the rewards are reflective of that, with the cash flow here in this example being nearly 1,400 a month. So yeah, I guess it is just about walking around every property and going, what does this suit? What does it lend itself to?
I hope you guys found this valuable. If you would like to work with us, then there is a link in the description below. I will get back to you personally if you fill that out.
And if you like this video, you might also like some of our other videos to do with HMOs. I will link up our entire HMO playlist. And if you fancy watching a bit of drama, why not watch our squatter series about the time we found a squatter in one of our properties up north. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.